So we've already discussed the barley harvest. We discussed the wheat harvest. Now in the ancient Jewish harvest cycle, there was a third harvest. It was called the summer fruits harvest. Grapes, figs, olives were harvested around August through September of the year. And from September through November, olives were gathered. But the grape harvest began around August through September. Now, we read in Revelations where it talked about the angel that reaped the grapes, and they were cast into the great winepress of God, and of the wrath of God, it said, and they were crushed. The blood flowed for a space of about 200 miles. That's the Amplified Bible translation of what it said, 1,600 furlongs. That's the King James Version. The Amplified Version clarifies that furlongs and translates it to 200 miles, about a space of 200 miles. Can you imagine blood flowing from human beings because they've been crushed? And there's so many people that the blood is about as high as the horse's bridle. Talking about a river of blood flowing for about 200 miles. Don't that sound like the wrath of God to you upon the wicked? It does to me. And that's at the end of the age. That's not at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation period, or that's not at the beginning of the great tribulation period. That's at the end, when he shall have destroyed all wicked and all kingdoms and principalities, and has taken authority over the earth. Okay, so now if we notice, okay, there's a law, okay. Now there's 3 parts to the ancient Jewish harvest cycle. The barley harvest is the first one, the wheat harvest is the next one, and the summer fruits harvest is the third harvest. And that's it as far as harvesting goes, of harvesting of crops. But according to the ancient Jewish laws and customs, the law of the harvest was this, or one of the laws was this, and we can find it in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter and verse 22. And the reason why I'm going into this is because pre-trib preachers and teachers will try to tell you that this is Matthew 24. The angels, when it says the angels will gather together his elect, then see, the Perry Stone will try to tell you that is teaching that this is the rapture at the end of the 7 years. The third, which basically saying this is the third rapture at the end of the 7 years. This is the last rapture, and it represents those who are left that have made it through the great tribulation period. So, but it's not. But that the Bible doesn't say that. Okay, we're going to see what this law is concerning the harvest. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse number 22. And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when you reap, neither shall you gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and to the stranger. I am the Lord your God. So this is what God told the children of Israel. And this was a commandment that they had to observe when they were doing the harvest of their crops. They were commanded to leave the gleanings. What is a gleaning? What is a gleaning? According to Webster's dictionary, To glean means to collect grain left by the reapers. When you glean a field, if you glean a field of crops, that means that you're going in there after the reapers have gathered together the main harvest of the field. You go behind them and pick up what's left in that field, so that nothing will be left over, nothing will be wasted. That's what it means to glean a field, to collect the remaining grain from a field. Gleanings is that which is gleaned. According to the commandment that we read just now in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter and the 22nd verse, it says, "And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when thou reapest, neither shalt thou gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them in the field for the poor and the stranger, so that they can have something to eat." Okay, that's plain and simple. That was God's law. Perry Stone is saying that four corners, that there's something called a four corners harvest. Is basically what he's saying, and that's it. And that's what it's talking about when we go to Matthew the 24th chapter, verse number, where Jesus was telling the disciples, he said, verse number 31, "And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." So Perry Stone is saying that is the four corners harvest. That's going to be a rapture of people who have, Jewish people, the Jewish remnant who have made it through the Great Tribulation period, and they're still alive. Well, the Bible doesn't teach that. Not at all. Matter of fact, according to the ancient Jewish harvest, we just read where the law was that they were not supposed to collect or gather the gleanings from the field. They weren't supposed to do that. It would be against the commandment of God to do that. The gleanings were what? They were left in the field, according to the commandment that we read in Leviticus. Now, who are the ones that are left in the field? Because it does say, like I said, Matthew 24 verse 31, that's the wheat harvest right there. That ain't nothing but the wheat harvest, because there's only one harvest. There was only one rapture. And that is at the end of the age. And that's what it's telling us right here in Matthew 24:31. It said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, in verse 29, the sun would be dark, the moon would be, then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and he will send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet. Same thing Paul said in 1 Thessalonians, at the sound of the trumpet. The rapture would happen at the sound of the trumpet, is what Paul said. And Jesus is saying the same thing. Now, but if you look over here to Matthew 24 verse 40. Let's start with verse number 38, because this is something else that the pre-tribulars get confused. "For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall it also be in the coming of the Son of Man. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. The two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord does come." Okay, what does it mean when it says one shall be taken and the other left. What is that talking about?